Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3848 BN. Today's date is February 25th, 2026, and the title of the episode is Trump Showed the People the True Enemy of the Country. Revolution since 1776 has not ended. Let me ask you a question. You ever see something and instantly know it's going to turn heads? That's exactly what happened when I saw these Trump Never Surrender gold sneakers. These aren't subtle, and they're not supposed to be. Gold finish, red, white, and blue details. Never surrender right on the shoe. You put these on, people definitely notice, period. What surprised me most? They're actually comfortable. Solid build, lightweight, and wearable. Not just something you buy and leave in the box. These are made to be worn and seen. And the message hit. Never Surrender isn't just branding, it's an attitude. Whether you're out running errands or showing up somewhere you want to make a statement, these do exactly that without saying a word. They're also a killer gift. If you got a Trump supporter, a collector, or someone who likes bold, unapologetic style, this is a win. They're unique, they're different, they're just awesome. One more thing that matters. These are a limited run, numbered pairs. Once they're gone, they're gone. If you want to grab a pair, our loyal audience will get 30% discount while inventory lasts. Go to themagaoffers.com/X22. That is themagaoffers.com/X22. And if you rather order by phone or talk to someone directly, you can call 855-550-MAGA. And be sure to use my code for even more savings when you call. Again, that number is 855-550-6242 or 855-550-MAGA. If these speak to you, don't wait on this. Inventory is moving fast, and once these sell out, that's it. Grab your pair and make a statement. Visit themagaoffers.com/X22 or call 855-550-MAGA and give them promo code X22 for an even bigger deal. Or just click the link in the description. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, you could see they were trapped in the State of the Union. No escape, nowhere to run. Everybody was watching. And even if they didn't watch, they were going to watch later on. And think about it. Those individuals that didn't show up, everyone looked and said, whoa, what just happened here? They're not Americans. They don't want to show up. They don't want to show up for their constituents. And think about what Trump did every step of the way. Those people that showed up, and I'm talking about the D's, he showed how they weren't for America. Every step of the way, he trapped them. And he showed the country that these people do not like America whatsoever. They rather have higher taxes. They rather have the insurance companies get rich. They rather support the illegals than the Americans. And every step of the way, what did Trump do? He showed the people, and sometimes you got to show the people, who the true enemy of the country is. That's what he did. He showed the entire country. Remember, we are still fighting a war. Actually, Trump let us know that we are still fighting the Revolutionary War from 1776. It has not ended. And like we said for a very long time, this is a revolutionary war. It has not ended. The enemy is still there. And the people must continually fight back. Now, Trump, he didn't want to fight on the streets. He didn't want a bloody war. He didn't want people shooting at each other. He didn't want a civil war. But he used information to wage the war. He used information to show the people who they truly are. And yes, this is going to take time because once again, it doesn't happen overnight. And to break the cult brainwashing, you have to show people multiple times. You just can't show them once. They just don't believe it. And this time around, what did he do? He actually set up the D's and showed everyone that they are the enemy of the people. And he showed and actually trapped the rhinos. You must pass the SAVE Act, because he brought this up during the State of the Union. And basically, the entire country is for the SAVE Act. Trump even went out of his way to say, listen, the country wants it. Something like 89% of the people want the SAVE Act. So it kind of trapped the rhinos in all of this. And you could see that he did this all on purpose. That's what this was all about, to show who the true enemy of this country really is. Now, again, he's not going to bring out Soros, bring out, all the people behind the curtains, because once again, this is what people see. Think about the everyday person who goes to work, watches the news, and, is just catching things here and there. You have to remove what you know, the rabbit holes that you went down and everything like that. You have to think of the everyday person. So if you just present the D's to them and show the people they're not for America, they can understand that. If you start bringing in Soros, you start bringing in people behind the curtains and going too deep, you kind of lose people. So you got to keep people at a 40,000 foot view right now until people come into the fold. Some people won't even come into the fold. But this is what Trump is doing right now. He's showing the people, look, I asked them a simple question. Americans come first over illegals. Do you agree with this? And the D's, they just sat there. They didn't agree with it. This is going to be used over and over and over as we approach the midterms. Basically, the D's just screwed themselves. And the people of this country saw it. The world saw it. Remember during Trump's first term when he came out and he told people that the news is the enemy of the people? And the people were like, wait, what is he talking about? The news is the enemy of the people. What do you mean by this? He called it fake. And people couldn't understand it because before him, nobody's ever said this before. And then as time went on, what did people realize? The news was fake. They made up stories. They lied. And they lied some more to cover up their lies. And when people didn't believe their lies, they created fact checkers to confirm their lies. And when Trump first said this, the people didn't believe. But now the people believe. It took a long time. The ratings from all these news agencies dropped like a rock. Why? Because no one believed him anymore, especially when Truth Social came into view, when X came into view, when Elon bought Twitter and renamed it X, when Rumble competed against YouTube. People started to see, wait a minute, you're saying one thing over there, but these people over here are saying another. And the people on Rumble, the people on X, the people on Truth, what they're saying is turning out to be true. And everything the fake news and those people that are on YouTube or Facebook and Instagram is turning out to be not true. So back then, people started to understand. Just like people are going to understand the D's have never been for this country. Remember, those people behind the curtains, they installed these people. Criminals install criminals. They report to the people behind the curtain, Soros and many others. They don't report to the constituents. They're paid off. They're bought. They're running a criminal syndicate. This is why they're completely and utterly against the people. Trump is about to change all of this. This is why, as we approach the midterms, he is now pointing the finger at who you should vote for. These are the true patriots of the country. Nobody's controlling them. They're not the criminals. They're your representatives. And this is what our founding fathers wanted from the very, very beginning. They wanted people, everyday people, that represent us, not that are being paid off by criminals, that are pushing the criminal agenda. And this is what's very important right now. This is why he needed the State of the Union. And if you notice, he called them out on it in front of the entire country over and over and over. And this has to be done. If you notice, Cash, when he goes in front of Congress, Pam Bondi, when she goes in front of Congress, Scott Bessent, when he goes in front, they all call those people out on everything that they've been doing. And it's very easy to do because they've been there for a very long time and they've gotten nothing done. Actually, they've been destroying their districts. They've been destroying the country. And all you got to do is say, listen, you've been in that seat for 20 something years. Let me just point out all the things that you have done to destroy this country. It's very, very easy. And now Trump has shown the world. And it's just going to get worse and worse for them as time goes on. And think about it. Trump said something very, very important, which we mentioned in the economic report, that he's going to remove the income tax from the people, that tariffs are going to replace the income tax. You see, this all goes back to 1913 when they created the Federal Reserve for the third time. Remember, the other two times, they didn't call it the Federal Reserve. This time they wanted you to think that it was part of the government when it really wasn't. And now he's on a mission to remove this system, the source of the system that funds the deep state players, that funds everything that you see today. All that money laundering in Minnesota, the money laundering in California, in Colorado, in Maine, and many other places. Where do you think they get the funding? The source is the Federal Reserve. Trump is about to end it all. And this is why he shut off the middlemen, because it comes from the Federal Reserve. Congress then says, okay, we need this money. Then Congress gives it to the agencies. The agencies then push it out through NGOs, shell companies, you name it. Trump shut it off at the agencies. They're not pushing the funds out anymore. Same thing with Venezuela. Same thing with Iran. Same thing with Ukraine. So instead of shutting down the Federal Reserve right now, because that would destroy the country, he shut off the middle part of how the money flows to make them feel pain every single day. Now, this doesn't mean they don't have funds because, again, they've been taking a lot from the people. But again, all those states now, they're now struggling. They're in trouble. And the shutdown is not helping them whatsoever. And you could see Trump has the upper hand in all of this. And this is why I do believe the deep state players will push the riots. Most likely they'll push some type of an event. I'm thinking it's a cyber attack. I could be wrong. But I'm thinking like, okay, they got to use an invisible enemy. Remember, if they push a pandemic, we don't listen to the WHO anymore. We have Bhattacharya in the CDC as an acting director. We have RFK Jr. now controlling the FDA, HHS, and everything else. So if they're going to use a pandemic, this is going to be very, very difficult because they're not in control of that. If they use a cyber attack, that's a little bit different. But we'll have to see how this all plays out. But you can see they're building up to this. And you can see that when all else fails and they lose control over everything, they will resort to all of this. Hopefully, Trump can counter all of this before it even happens. But I think he's also preparing for when it does happen. And he'll use this against them. And if you notice, he's been trying to stop all the wars and actually trying to have peace with Ukraine. But again, the deep state players, they do not want peace. They actually want war. And I do believe he will use this against them to actually usher in peace. But let's see how this all plays out. Now, Trump, he said a lot of things during the State of the Union. One of the things that he said was that crime has gone down, and it's the lowest murder rate that we've seen in 125 years. And of course, you know, the fake news, they had to fact check him because that's what they do. And every time he mentions something like this, I think they're shocked. CBS News says, yeah, you know what? He's right. This is the lowest murder rate in the last 125 years. Megan Basham says, I'll be honest, even I wonder a little bit when Trump said that. And yet it's true. Lowest murder rate in 125 years. I look forward to all the explanations for why closing the border had nothing to do with that. And that's exactly what it had to do with. Because again, who created the problems in this country? It was the deep state players. It was the D's, all their policies. They're the ones who created all this. And what did Trump do? He just reversed it and showed everyone, look, if I just reverse what they do, everything starts to go away. If I bring law enforcement into D.C. or into Memphis or into any city and I arrest people, the problems go away. You don't need more money. You don't have to borrow any more money. It doesn't have to be sent to any of those states. The problem just goes away. It's that easy. If I shut the border off and I don't let people in here and the people have to go to the port of entry, prove who they are, get a background check, guess what? All this crime just disappears. It's that easy. So basically what Trump is doing, he's just reversing everything that they did and showing you this is how easy it is. And he does this every single time. And it's absolutely beautiful. Now, the other thing that's very interesting, since the Epstein files came out, it seems that the Savannah Guthrie case where her mother was kidnapped, it looks like most likely it has to do something with the Epstein files. Because you have to remember, Savannah Guthrie, she was involved in interviewing Virginia Guthrie And basically, I think she was the first person that to interview her. But she did come out and say something very, very interesting. And I think this is all happening because they're putting pressure on all the reporters, telling them do not report on this, trying to keep the story out on the news, especially all the, fake news stations, trying to distract from everyone. And she came out and she said something very, very interesting. And Parallel 8 Media said, and there it is, the narrative convergence, all threads becoming one thread. Protect the children. So she came out and she said that she's going to be donating money to children that have been trafficked. She's giving $500,000. So that is just very, very interesting in itself. So now it feels like we're coming full circle in all of this. And it most likely has to do with Epstein, human trafficking, child trafficking. But we'll have to see how this all plays out in the end. Now, the other thing that we could see is that during the State of the Union, Representative Ro Khanna, he brought out Haley Robson, a survivor of Epstein's abuse, and he said this is his guest. And basically, he's continually pushing the idea that, they're not releasing the Epstein files. They're trying to hold a lot of it back. And of course, they can use this because, again, if there are investigations that are happening, which I do believe there are, and the grand jury has this information, yes, some information cannot come out there. But I think they knew this. And I think they knew that the information that was in the Epstein files would not be used, or they didn't need it because they had other information. And they used this information to push their agenda, knowing that the other information would not be released, so they could play upon this. But Jordan Sather says this woman recruited dozens of underage girls for Epstein. She was at Massey's and Khanna's Stand with Survivors press conference and is featured in all the World Without Exploitation Survivor videos. Some people still don't see the files psyop for what it is. A purely political, justice-obstructing Get Trump campaign disguised under bipartisan truth and justice virtue signaling. And that's absolutely true. And yes, these people were also involved in trafficking because that's how it worked. They were trafficked when they were underage. When they became 18, they were used then to traffic others. So yes, they were involved in all of this. And once again, I do believe they set it up because they knew that they wouldn't be able to get the other information. Just like when Trump went to the Obama judges saying, listen, we would like all the information. And of course, he told the Department of Justice to do this. We would love all the information that has to do with the Epstein case and everything that the grand jury looked at. And of course, it was denied. So they're using the same exact tactic. Okay, we would like the rest of this information. They're holding it back. But the rest of the information is being used in investigations. So yeah, that information cannot be handed over to them. But they'll use this over and over and over to convince the people that Trump is trying to hold us back. But the information that is out there now is actually having a ripple effect, and it's actually destroying certain individuals, even though there's no criminal charges that have been filed, but they all know where this is all headed. And Bill Gates is continually apologizing, canceling speeches, and he actually now admits to having affairs with 2 Russian women. Do you think that's all that happened? Or is he trying to get ahead of all of this? Well, I do believe when other information appears or is released, we're going to find out that no, he's done a lot more than just have affairs with Russian women. And I do believe this is why all these people are starting to resign. Like Larry Summers, he decided that he was going to resign now. So I think we're going to see a lot more resignations. And as the truth comes out and people see what they have done here and the cases and the indictments come down, I think you're going to see a lot of people take their own lives because I don't think they want to sit in front of a jury and have this, brought out into the open. If they take their lives, it's pretty much kind of forgotten. You don't have the long, strung out court cases where people are reporting on it every single day. Yes, some of the information will get out there, but I think most of these people are not going to want to sit through any of this because you can see out in the UK with the rape gang inquiry, it is a complete and utter disaster for Starmer. And what we're come to find out is that UK officers who drove police cars, they helped traffic British girls to Pakistani rape gangs. I mean, think about the system that they were running across the world. It was like a free-for-all, and they covered it all up. And now the truth is coming out, and it's getting worse and worse for them. I mean, how long do you think it's going to be until Starmer says, you know what, I am not running, maybe I'm resigning? Let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting as we move forward. And as we move forward, what we've come to find out is that, yes, the CIA, they've been manipulating America's minds through covert methods. And a newly released CIA document reveals a chilling blueprint to manipulate minds through covert drugging experiments. The CIA's reading room in 2025 details the government's once top-secret project Artichoke, ran from 1951 to 1956, focused on behavior control, interrogation techniques, and psychological manipulation. The 7-page document titled Special Research for Artichoke, with an attachment labeled Suggested Field for Special Research Relative Artichoke, outlines proposals to develop chemicals capable of altering human behavior. It discusses drugs designed for both immediate effects like true serums and long-term influence, potentially administered through food, water, alcohol, cigarettes, and vaccines. Researchers also suggested that such substances could be disguised in medical treatments such as vaccinations or injections. That makes me want to think of COVID right now. What else was in that vaccine? That's very, very interesting. So once again, we could see that MK Ultra, it is real. And again, they've been doing this for a very long time. Of course, fast forward to today, I'm sure they've streamlined the process, and most of the people don't even realize they're being MK Ultra'd. Unbelievable. And think about it. Since Europe and Australia and New Zealand, since they are now censoring their own people, even though they're out there letting everyone know they love free speech as long as we control it, it looks like the Trump admin, they're launching a new free speech site to combat censorship abroad. And basically, they're setting up an app, not only for Europe, but for China and Iran. The platform is called freedom.gov. It will go live over the next several weeks. And freedom.gov is the latest in a long line of efforts by the State Department to protect and promote fundamental freedoms both online and offline. The project will be global in its scope, but distinctly American in its mission, commemorating our commitment to free expression as we approach our 250th birthday. So basically, it'll be an app. It'll be used around the world, and they'll be able to access things that they normally can't see. Now, how long will this stay up? Will the various countries block it? Maybe, maybe not. But let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. Now, the other thing that we could see is that, yes, the deep state players, they are trying to push us to World War III. Yes, they're putting a lot of pressure on Hungary and Slovakia. Yes, they're destroying pipelines. Yes, they're trying to starve Hungary and Slovakia of fuel. Yes, they want to manipulate their elections. Yes, Hungary and Slovakia, they're going to be fighting back against their own European Union, which is very, very interesting. Spetsnaz Z007 put this out and said, Ukraine tried to attack the Turk and Blue Stream gas pipelines in the Black Sea, coming from Putin. This pipeline is crucial for Hungary, Serbia, and Turkey. The terror state is now going against NATO states which oppose Kiev. That would be an act of war. So this is very, very interesting. And think about it. Since Hungary pretty much vetoed the $90 billion, what did the EU globalists do? Well, they overrode this, and they actually went ahead and gave Ukraine $90 billion. Slavic Networks put this out and said, European Parliament President Roberta Metsola signed the massive $90 billion Ukraine support loan on February 24, 2026, claiming to act on behalf of the entire European Parliament. But Hungary's veto blocks the full package in the Council, where unanimity is required. Metsolah's signature advances the parliament side, but the loan remains stalled without the council approval. So basically, the dictatorship doesn't care what the other countries have to say. They're going to block it. They're going to, go for it every step of the way, even though it's blocked. And I do believe they'll probably forget about all their rules and everything else, and they'll just override the veto and just give it to Ukraine, because that's where we're at right now. And it looks like the Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, he's taken the next step. Mara Nafal put this out and says, Hungarian Prime Minister Orban just ordered the deployment of the military to protect the country's critical energy infrastructure from what he calls an alleged Ukrainian threat. He also banned drone flights along the Hungary-Ukraine border. Things are getting worse. With the war, everyone seems to have forgotten. And look how the EU is pushing war within their own countries that are supposed to be united. You know what's interesting? Why is nobody talking about these hidden performance experiments connected to our military? Just hear what Tony Robbins has to say in this clip.
But check this out. Your sirtuins do two things. First, they turn on and off genes. Well, they also have a competing component, because they can only do so much, which is cleaning up your DNA. These sirtuins have a fuel that you've probably heard of called NAD. So NAD is wonderful, but NAD is a size molecule that, as you probably know, needs a precursor called NMN to actually get into the body. For 2 years, top secret, they have been working with our military, with our special forces. And about a month and a half ago in Boston, the commander got so excited, he slipped the beans. And it was just in the Daily Mail last week as well. He didn't tell all of it, and I know more because I've invested in the company, and I can't tell you the exact things, but I can tell you what's been reported. What's been reported is the commander said, these are the strongest humans alive, both men and women in the special forces, the most fit people, right? Endurance has exploded, he said, very much like the mice. He said, secondly, muscle development has completely changed from the same stimulus, like the same workout, they're getting more muscle. And then thirdly, and the most important thing for them is cognition has gone through the roof, because when you're exhausted and you're out there in special forces, the ability to use your head is more valuable than your body.
What David Sinclair and his research group did first was test this compound on mice. When they gave them NMN within just 14 days, those mice were running 200 to 300% more than even the youngest and strongest ones in the group. And what most people don't realize is this didn't stop at the animal research. For over 2 years, this compound has been studied in performance and resilience programs connected to military readiness, and the human responses closely mirrored what they saw in the animals. So when Tony Robbins talks about this, he's not talking about hype. He's talking about a compound that restores mitochondrial function, meaning your cells regain the ability to turn energy production on and off efficiently again. And here's the part where most people get misled. So NAD is a molecule your body has a ton of when you're young. But by the time you hit around 40, your NAD levels are cut in half. And that decline is one of the main triggers of aging. And here's the part nobody warns you about. This decline doesn't come with pain or alarms. It shows up quietly. First your energy, then your recovery. Then one day you wake up and you realize your body just doesn't respond the way it used to. This is where the misconception starts. A lot of people think they can just take NAD directly and get anti-aging or energy benefits. That's not how the body works. Just listen to what Gary Brecka, a human biologist with over 2 decades of experience, has to say.
You know, NAD, it's actually not NAD, it's NAD+, and that little positive is the reduced form of NAD, which means that charge can't really pass through first-pass metabolism. You can't just drop NAD into the stomach. It will just immediately dissociate.
What your body actually uses is NMN, because NMN is the precursor your cells convert into NAD naturally. Restoring NAD isn't about looking younger. It's about slowing the internal breakdown most people accept as normal aging. The stiffness, the slower recovery, the feeling that your body is working against you. That all starts at the cellular level. The difference isn't genetics. It's that some people intervene early and most people wait until their body forces the issue. Europe, they banned this in 2022. Not because it's dangerous, because it works too damn well. Big Pharma is developing a $3,000 version of this, so they're trying to ban the cheaper version. Classic move. A Harvard clinical trial found that 1,000 milligrams of NMN daily safely increases NAD levels by up to 2 times. Researchers also observed reductions in fat mass, cholesterol, and blood pressure, confirming NMN's potential to reverse key markers of metabolic aging. This is the NMN I personally use, Black Forest NMN. It's not only GMO-free, made in the U.S., and a third-party tested. It has piperine, which increases the bioavailability of NMN by roughly 30%, and it's the same dosage used in the experiments conducted at Harvard. The only downside I will say is since this has been gaining so much traction recently, they've been selling out almost immediately, and they take forever to restock. So if you want to try some, I'll leave a link below. The people who benefit most from this aren't chasing youth. They're the ones who refuse to let silent decline make decisions for them. And the best part is that Black Forest just launched their amazing New Year, new Me Biggest Deal of the Year. And it's insane. Buy one, get one free off their best-selling NMN products, available for 48 hours only. This ends in 48 hours, and when it's over, it's gone for good. So go to blackforestsupplements.com/X22 or just click the link in the description. Isn't that interesting? So we can see they're definitely pushing all of this, and they're pushing it very, very hard. And while that is happening, Trump is continually putting pressure on Iran. Treasury Department put this out and said, today's Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control sanctions over 30 individuals, entities, and vessels, enabling illicit Iranian petroleum sales and Iran's ballistic missiles and advanced conventional weapons production as part of Treasury's ongoing campaign of maximum pressure on Iran. So there's a lot of pressure on Iran right now. And you can see that Trump is continually giving Iran the opportunity to negotiate all of this. And yesterday at the State of the Union just said Iran has to say the magical words, we will not produce a nuclear weapon. But I think in the end, this really has nothing to do with nuclear weapons. But again, he's using this, and he knows most likely Iran's not going to say this. But again, what's very interesting about this is that Trump, he wants to negotiate this. He wants to do it diplomatically. He doesn't want to go into Iran, just like he wanted to do this with Venezuela. But we know how the deep state players work. They're not going to go out without a fight. They're not going to negotiate. What they'll do is they'll delay. This is what they normally do. Look at Ukraine, for example. They're in the delay business. Look what's happening here within the United States with the judiciary. They just delay everything. Oh, you can't deport that person. You got to bring people back. Oh, I'm going to delay this. They know they can't win in the court of law. They know they can't win against Trump if they bring in the military. So what they do is they try to delay as best they possibly can. And what's very interesting, I think Trump and the Patriots, they know this. I think they know in Iran that they'll be delaying and delaying and delaying. So if Trump already knows this and he's still trying to go down the path of negotiations, I think he understands what's coming up, which means, was this done on purpose? Did he already know that they weren't going to agree? Or maybe if they did agree, we wouldn't have to worry about it. But if they didn't agree, as we approach April 1st, this is a very big time in Iran. Because remember, the country formally transitioned on April 1st, 1979 to the Islamic Republic. So remember, there was a revolution that happened, and the final formal transition occurred when the Ayatollah Khomeini declared the results of the referendum on April 1st, 1979. So this is the Islamic Republic Day, and it commemorates the establishment of the Islamic Republic in 1979, and that's April 1st. So here we are. We're heading into the month of March. Trump is going to be negotiating with Iran and the deep state players. Now, will it take 30 days? Will it be done in 30? Maybe, maybe not. Or are we going to go in on this day and reverse everything that was done on April 1st, 1979? Let's see how this all plays out. Now, I don't mean we're going to be bringing the troops in there. World War III is going to start. We're going to have nuclear weapons. Russia's going to join in. None of that's going to happen. I do believe Trump has the Armada out there, has the missiles out there, has everything set up, and all he has to do is hit a couple of strategic areas to give the people of Iran the opportunity to take control of the country. That's pretty much it. And when the people see this on the streets and they realize this is their time, they will take that opportunity. But let's see when this should all occur. But I just noticed that we're coming up to that time frame. that's when everything was born in Iran, and they went full deep state, which is very, very interesting. So let's see how this all plays out. Now, the other thing that we could see is that the FBI, they just raided the home and office of the Deep Blue Los Angeles School Superintendent Alberto Cavallo. So search warrants were carried out, and they're looking for something, which is very, very interesting. Nick Sorter put this out and said, the FBI is currently executing search warrants at the home of Los Angeles Public School Superintendent Alberto Cavallo, as well as the school's district's headquarters. A major scandal in one of the most corrupt school districts in the country is about to be exposed. So, money laundering, what else was happening there? This is going to be very, very interesting. And I think we're going to see a lot of this as time goes on. Because again, Trump has a strike force in California looking at pretty much everything, looking at the health insurance, looking at what has been going on in California. And I think we're going to find out that California is a lot worse than Minnesota. Remember, this is their money laundering system that they've been using. They've been using a cheating system, money laundering system. This is all part of the criminal syndicate system. Remember, they developed the system long ago, and they built upon it over time. The agencies controlled where the money was going to flow to keep their system operational. And that's what you're witnessing right now. Epstein was put in a place to keep control of those politicians, dignitaries, CEOs, you name it. Do what we say or else. And this is how they controlled everything. And once again, you could see it's unraveling right in front of their eyes. And when Obama came in, you know what they did? They infiltrated this country from within. They built the army. So even if he leaves or someone else comes in, the army was still there. The Skiff put this out and said, Obama's secret stay behind army. It's time to purge and shatter the deep state into a million pieces. In 1979, under President Carter, the Senior Executive Service, SES, was created as a nonpartisan corps of career managers to implement federal policy equivalent to general officers in the military. During Obama's first term, 2009 to 2013, a gradual purge of patriots began across government agencies, including intelligence and military, transforming the SES into a tool for political control. In 2012, amid the Benghazi attack, Obama fired key military leaders like General Carter Ham, U.S. Africa Command, and Rear Admiral Chuck Gouet for defying stand-down orders, part of a broader military purge that removed 9 senior generals, 2 nuclear commanders, and 197 high-ranking officers. By December 15, 2015, 6 months after Trump announced his candidacy and rose in the polls, Obama signed an executive order making SES members nearly impossible to fire, accelerating the replacement of over 6,000 of 8,000 SES positions with loyalists committed to his transformation of America agenda. By the end of Obama's second term in 2016, these embeds saturated agencies. Example, 821 in Justice, 639 in Homeland Security, 478 in Defense, forming a stay-behind army to sabotage Trump. This network fueled the 2016 to 2020 insurance policy against Trump, including Russiagate, Mueller probe, and impeachments. Orchestrated from Obama's shadow ops and D.C. exposure is key. Trump's Hunter error is dismantling it. I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter, President DJT. And that's exactly what he is. And again, Obama infiltrated this country from within, and he wanted to maintain control and destroy, actually, in the end, destroy this country. And he was doing it slowly but surely. And now Trump has reversed all of this, and he has removed his army. And again, we still have to remove the judiciary. That's the last part of his army. And you could see that Trump now is gaining power. So he's no longer sitting there going, oh my, they're hunting me, I have to defend myself. He's on the offensive, and he's going after all these people because he removed all these blocks. The last one is the judiciary, which eventually he will remove. But again, he can't do it himself. What does he need? He needs the House and the Senate. That's where we, the people, come in. Remember, the counterinsurgency is made up of the military, the president, and the people. Without the people, Trump cannot move forward with the plan. The people must push out the rest of the people that were installed to basically go against Trump. He's counting on we the people to do this because he can't do it on his own. He can't remove the elected officials. Only we the people can. He's removed everything else, but he needs the people to remove the elected officials, because once the elected officials are removed and we put in the patriots, then we can go after the other part of Obama's army, which is the judiciary. We can impeach and remove those judges. Plus, we can have his nominees confirmed very, very quickly. And this is where all this is headed. And this is why he decided to have the State of the Union, even though the country is shut down. He did it on purpose to show the people who the deep state players, the D's, truly are. Now, the D's, I think over 40 of them, they decided not to attend the State of the Union. They decided to have the State of the Swamp. And what did they do? They had people dress up in costumes and parade around the stage. This is what they think of our country. RNC Research put this out and said, this is what Democrats are doing instead of attending President Trump's State of the Union speech. Democrats are literally hanging out with deranged leftists dressed in giraffe costumes, bragging about getting arrested by ICE. Marin Afal put this out and said, Dems counter-protest to Trump's State of the Union take cringe to a whole new level. There's other people dressed up as frogs. Think about this. Think about how Looney Toony they are. Well, some of the Looney Tunes came to the State of the Union, like Al Green, you know, the one that filed the impeachment papers against Trump, which didn't go anywhere. And he held up a sign that says, black people, and it was supposed to be aren't apes, but his hand was covering the A. So he said, the sign said, black people rent apes. Classic. I mean, you really can't make this stuff up. And once again, you could see that Trump, he decided to break his record of speeches. And if you notice, he just spoke straight through. I didn't even see him take a drink of water. Maybe he did when the camera wasn't on him, but I didn't see him take a drink of water. And I think he went like something like 140 minutes. He did it so late. So when the Dem response came up, you know, Governor Spanberger, who lied to everyone in Virginia and reversed everything that was there and actually made Virginia look like California, actually probably even worse than California. She decided to respond to Trump, but it was so late. I think most of the people went to sleep. And I think this is why Trump went on so long. And basically, there was no way that she could go against what Trump said. What do they want? Higher taxes? What do they want? Criminals on the streets? What do they want? The economy to do poorly? I mean, she's talking about affordability. She made everything more expensive. She added taxes. She did the opposite of what she campaigned on. But again, everyone now is seeing the truth. And the other thing that was very interesting, and Cynical Public has put this out. Wait a sec. There are SCOTUS justices who did not show up for this SOTU. What? This is disgusting. It doesn't matter how much of a divide there is between POTUS and SCOTUS. We're all one people and one constitution. How could a justice not know this? They need to signal that we are one people, and certain justices decide to send the opposite message. Again, they're supposed to be bipartisan. The Supreme Court is not supposed to be taking sides. So they just showed us, all the people that didn't show up, they just showed us that they took a side. And that should tell you everything you need to know right there. This is tragic. And this is not what the country should be. And once again, the deep state players are showing you who they truly are. This is how they infiltrated the country. And you could see Robert De Niro, he's crying about all of this. And yes, he was at, the swamp thing. But Ollie London put this out and said, Robert De Niro complains he feels betrayed by America. Calls for massive protests to take back the country. The bottom line is that I feel betrayed by my country. If you want the USA to be worthy of your love, get ready to take to the streets together. So basically, he's telling everyone to riot and have an insurrection against the sitting president of the United States and the people of this country. This is what it's coming down to. And I think we've always known that this is where this is going to be headed. I think in the end, when the deep state players at ease and the rest know they can't win the election in the midterms, I think at that point, they won't even care. They'll just say riot. They'll just say destroy. They'll just say pillage. Because at that point in time, they won't care because they know it's game over. So I think they're not going to pretend anymore. I think the people are going to see who they truly are. And you're going to hear them say, kill, destroy, maim. I think they're going to say it in the end. Because when all else fails, that's all they got left. But Trump responded to Ilhan Omar, Rashid Tlaib, and Robert De Niro. And this is what he says. When you watch low IQ Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib as they scream uncontrollably last night at the very elegant State of the Union, such an important and beautiful event, they had the bulging, bloodshot eyes of crazy people, lunatics, mentally deranged and sick, who frankly look like they should be institutionalized. When people can behave like that, and knowing that they are crooked and corrupt politicians so bad for our country, we should send them back from where they came as fast as possible. They can only damage the United States of America. They can do nothing to help it. They should actually get on a boat with Trump deranged Robert De Niro, another sick and demented person with, I believe, an extremely low IQ, who has absolutely no idea what he's doing or saying, some of which is seriously criminal. When I watched him break down in tears last night, much like a child would do, I realized that he may be even sicker than the crazy Rosie O'Donnell, who is right now in Ireland trying to figure out how to come back into our beautiful United States. The only difference between Robert De Niro and Rosie is that she is probably somewhat smarter than him, which isn't saying much. The good news is that America is now bigger, better, and richer, and stronger than ever before, and is driving them absolutely crazy. President DJT. Absolutely. And think about everything that Trump said. He actually structured it in a way that people with common sense would say, yeah, we want lower taxes. Yes, we want jobs. Yes, we want crime and criminals off the street. Yes, we don't want to pay income tax. Yes, we love all of these things. But again, he showed the people the truth. And when you looked at these people, they couldn't even clap for the victims. Most of the victims. Sometimes they got up. Sometimes they surprised the people. Robbie Starbuck put this out and said Democrats sat on their hands, refusing to clap when President Trump asked Congress to pass a law that would ensure violent, dangerous felons are put behind bars and that they stay there. Democrats are literally pro-criminal at this point. Absolutely insane behavior. Because again, you have to remember, they're not like us. They're not Americans. They're criminals. They're part of the system. The system wants criminals. The system wants terrorists. The system depends on it. That's the difference. But Carolyn Leavitt lays it all out. She says, here's what the Democrats in Congress refused to stand for during the State of the Union. Putting American citizens over illegal aliens. Voter ID laws. The murder rate at the lowest since 1900s. Keeping violent criminals locked up. Protecting parental rights. Stopping fraud. Angel families, price transparency, taking on drug cartels, no tax on tips, overtime, Social Security, the most secure border in history. The contrast could not be clearer. Democrats are crazy. President Trump and Republicans are for common sense. They're not crazy. They're criminals. Remember, it's like when you see the mafia and you see them in government in a small town they took over. No. Do they want criminals behind bars? No. Do they want to continually collect from the people as much as they possibly? Of course they do. These people are criminals. They're not like you and me. They have no morals whatsoever. They answer to the criminal syndicate. It's that simple. That's why they hate America. And they've been trying to brainwash the people of this country to hate this country. Trump is reversing and breaking the cult brainwashing. And first, it was for the Republicans. Now, those moderate Democrats, they're starting to realize, they're starting to use common sense. They're starting to think logically. And they're starting to see through this. Actually, Fetterman, is starting to see all of this, saying this is not a good look for the Democratic Party. They're completely against putting criminals away. They're completely against parents making decisions for their children. They're completely against common sense. It doesn't make any sense. And when you look at who's truly part of the country, you could see it very clearly. Michael A. Arut put this out and said, this is an amazing chart. Republicans are prouder to be American today than in 2000. Something really weird happened to Democrats, though. So when you look at this, you could see that Republicans were at 92, very close to 100. When you look at independents, they're at 53. Democrats are at 36. So the brainwashing for Democrats has worked, and this is from 2001 to 2025. This is what Trump now is breaking by using common sense, especially for the moderate Democrats. And when you really look at the deep state players, they're controlled. They're part of the criminal syndicate. They're blackmailed. This is why they react the way they are. They're not for this country. Remember, it's infiltration from within. And I think Representative Anna Paulina Luna says it perfectly. Congressional ethics is a joke. They have so much dirt on members of Congress, and they do nothing. There is even a slush fund they use to pay people off with your tax dollars. This is part of why the system is broken. They're sitting on reports, and if someone steps out of line, isn't it ironic how they leak them, threaten to leak them, or time it for right after the election day? As you can see, there is a serious problem up here, largely surrounding sexual misconduct. It pisses me off because while some of us are actually working and busting our asses, these clowns are sexually harassing their own staff, doing illegal crap, insider trading, etc. It sets a terrible precedent for the entire institution. I would kick every single one of you out if I could, but I can't because the votes aren't there. The one thing I can do is call it out on here so people know and push to ensure there is no insider trading for any of you. Stop being predatory freaks and get out of office. You do not belong here. This behavior is reprehensible and a poor reflection on the Republican Party. I will not tolerate this type of moral rot in my own party, nor should the American people. Now think about it. There are certain people, yes, in the Republican Party that are doing all this. Now take that. What do you think is happening in the Democratic Party? It's 10 times worse. Or 100 times worse. And Trump now is going to be replacing all of these people. And Trump is reminding us of how we should be patriotic, what true heroes look like. And he brought them in during the State of the Union because I think people forgot. So the first person that Trump brought in, and this is in no specific order, was Scott Ruskin, the U.S. Coast Guard swimmer who saved over 100 lives in his first rescue mission. And the Legion of Merit was given to him for extraordinary heroism. And he saved a little girl, and he saved many other people during the floods in Texas. He got a medal. And he also gave medals to many other people, but one of them was a 100-year-old military individual, and he finally got a medal. He was finally recognized for what he did in this country. Pub says, imagine being 100 years old. Life is slipping away and you may never receive the recognition you deserved for how you served the United States. You're okay with it. You never did it for the recognition. But over those 100 years, you've seen so many others receive the Medal of Honor. And along comes Donald Trump. And at 100 years old, you receive the highest military honor possible. This is why we love Trump. He gets it. He's showing the people who the true heroes are. And yes, there are many other heroes that got medals. The National Guard officer that was shot in the head. Trump is showing the people this is what this country is all about. And we must honor these people that protect our way of life. And Trump did some other things during the State of the Union. He actually called out all the rhinos and showed them up and made the people of this country see who didn't want to pass the SAVE Act. Margot Cleveland put this out and said, I mean, why doesn't the president pause in the middle of the State of the Union and have the Senate take a voice vote on the SAVE Act? They'll have a quorum and be in session. They only need 50 yeses since JD will be there too. Well, a vote cannot occur during the session of Congress because it does not constitutionally or statutorily constitute a legislative sitting of either chamber. Motions, debate, and votes are out of order and may be blocked by a point of order from any member. So I think what Trump did there, he just wanted to get a consensus and let the people of this country see who's for it and who's against it. And those individuals who are against it and then saw everyone clapping and now they're for it, well, the country just saw this. And if they decide to go back on it, this is going to be very, very difficult. Do we need the Democrats? No, they're not for this whatsoever. But again, the rhinos were trying to stop this. And now Trump just showed the world, the country, who's for it and who's against it. And then Trump did something else. And I do believe all of this was done for the midterms, because he needed to show the people who the true enemy is of this country. He said, if you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens and not illegal aliens. Democrats remained seated. Remember, they took an oath to protect the Americans, to serve the Americans. And none of them got up. He did this on purpose because they just broke their oath. Think about what they just did here. And the country saw this. Stephen Miller responds to this and says, POTUS laid out clearly and deliberately. Show Americans if you agree with this statement by standing. And zero Democrats stood for the foundational principle of all government that leaders must serve citizens before invaders. Never has there been a more stunning moment in Congress. Scott Jennings says, Democrats refusing to stand to affirm their allegiance to American citizens over illegal aliens will be signature moment of this speech. Trump nailed them. Steve Miller said, Democrats declare to the world their searing disdain for a profound disloyalty to the actual citizens of the United States. They were repeatedly entreated to stand. Over and over, they refused. It was a moment that chills to the bone and which will live for thousands of years. Now remember, these people allegedly were elected by their constituents. They're supposed to serve these people. They come first. They took an oath to the Constitution to do this, to serve the people, not themselves. And they decided to show everyone, we will not serve you as the elected official. We will not serve any of you. We will not represent any of you. Any Democrat that votes for these people, they're just plain out stupid at this point, because they just showed you, and I'm not talking about the far left, I'm talking about the moderate Democrats. They just showed you who they truly are. They don't care about you. They will support an illegal before they support a Democrat. Trump did this on purpose. He needed to show the people the true enemy. And I think Clandestine just sums this up. It appears Trump's objectives going into the SOTU was to paint the picture that the Dems are un-American and don't represent the interests of the American people. It's safe to say that objective was achieved. Trump is winning the battle of public perception. And he absolutely is. How do we know this? Well, Election Wizard put this out and said, reaction to Trump's State of the Union. And this is coming from CNN. Positive, 63%. Negative, 36%. The people are with him. And Trump, he concluded his record-breaking 1 hour and 41-minute State of the Union speech. Now, I do believe he did this on purpose. He went on long, not just to break the record, but to make it so late that when the D's spoke, no one was listening. Actually, nobody really cared. And he said, the golden age of America is upon us. The revolution that began in 1776 has not ended, and it hasn't. We've been fighting the revolution. We've been fighting against the entrenched enemy that got stronger and stronger as time went on, until Trump came into the picture and showed the people, look what has happened to our country. The enemy is at our door. Actually, they've gone through the door, and now they've taken control of our home. We must remove the enemy. We must wake up. We must see it. We must fight back. And he did this without a civil war. He did this without bloodshed. He did this in a way where people could see who the true enemy is. And he's still doing it. He hasn't stopped. This is how you build the counterinsurgency, because we're reaching that precipice. We're reaching the point where the people, not the Republicans, they're on his side. The people of this country, they're going to have to make a decision. When they see the rioters out on the streets, when they see towns and cities burning down, when they hear these people say, riot, riot, they're going to have to make a decision. Who do you want? And I do believe this will be the precipice where the people will make the decision, I must change. I must vote for something else. I must vote for those people that love America, because now I see the people who hate America. And I do believe it will happen. I think we're going to see something that we've never seen in the midterms, especially when the people vote. I think the D's, they're going to be destroyed. And the country is going to come together. Actually, what Trump is doing, he's uniting the country. He's showing everyone who the true enemy is. And it's becoming, the fog is lifting. It's becoming clearer and clearer every single day. People are going to resist it, especially the D's, of course. They're going to resist it. But they're going to eventually say, enough is enough. Soon, we the people are going to win against the deep state players. Why? Because the Patriots are in control. Listen, everyone. Thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.